Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. Tired of running late? How to arrive on time to those nearby appointments. Today's webinar is presented by myself, Rochelle Lissop, and by my blog, The Order Expert. Thanks for joining us today. In this webinar, we're going to talk about time management, specifically how to arrive on time to appointments that are just a short distance away, whether they're around the corner or down the street from your place of work, school, or home. Before we go any further, I'd like to introduce myself a little bit more. My name is Rochelle Lissop, and I'm an organizing, time management, and productivity blogger, author, and consultant. I'm the founder of the lifestyle blog, theorderexpert.com, which is a site that features practical tips to help people live more balanced lives. I'm the author of 3 ebooks, and I've written more than 800 articles on the subject of time management, productivity, and organization. My work's been featured in several media all around the web, including Good Housekeeping, House Beautiful, Fast Company, Lifehack, Bustle, Daily Worth, and more. So now let's review what we'll be talking about today. And let me just over here. Okay. So today we're going to be talking about the following points. Oops. Facts about lateness, the causes of lateness. This is something that you might have been wondering about. The problem with nearby appointments, things you can do to prevent lateness, and the formula for arriving on time. Don't worry, the formula isn't a complex one. It's rather simple. So we'll go into detail for each of these points throughout the webinar. Now, we'll be covering a lot of material in this webinar. If you should have a question, please go ahead and type it in the Q&A section, which should be located on the side of your screen. As I mentioned earlier, we'll have a question and answer session at the end. Now, I won't be able to get to all of the questions asked, but I will look for and select those questions that will benefit the most amount of people. So go ahead and write in your question in the little box on the right. Okay, so let's get started. So let's first talk about facts about lateness. Lateness is often seen as a bad thing, right? When you arrive late to a meeting at work or a lunch appointment with a friend, you might show up, a couple of minutes late, 5 minutes late, half an hour late. Let's face it, it's not really a pleasant scene. The people who are already at your appointment or meeting, may be a bit unhappy or even a little bit disgruntled, and they might even be angry or annoyed at your lateness. You, on the other hand, might feel upset or embarrassed by what's happened. But what is it about lateness that makes it, really annoying? Well, there's a few reasons that I can think of right off the top of my head. So one fact is lateness is a waste of time. When you've set up a meeting to take place at a certain time and then someone arrives late, it disrupts the whole point of holding that meeting at that specific time. Second, lateness can be a waste of money. Exactly how can being late waste money? Well, this can happen in a number of ways. It can happen because of late fees, fines, or expenses to traveling to or purchasing items only to be too late to actually use them properly. Number 3, waste of energy. We all know the energy it takes to get ready in the morning or to travel to any destination. When we're late, there is an energy loss that is twofold. The person who ends up arriving late and the person who was waiting for that late attendee has also wasted energy. And this in turn leads us to our next point, where lateness can upset the rest of your schedule. Lateness can have a ripple effect on everything you do. One lateness at the beginning of the day, if not adequately checked, can cause you to do a bit of scrambling later on. So if you miss arriving on time to your 10 a.m. office meeting, you'll end up staying late and it will make it difficult for you to arrive on time to your 11:30 a.m. doctor's appointment, and so on. So you'll just spend the entire day trying to correct your schedule, which really isn't a good thing. And next, lateness um, can just be really embarrassing. Um, it's not a pleasant scene. You're feeling embarrassed about everything, and you're not really putting your best foot forward when it comes to the person that you're meeting with or the group that you're meeting with. Okay, so those were some general facts about lateness. And now let's go on to the causes of lateness. So, what causes us to be late anyway? Now, before we get down to the nitty-gritty reasons, we can always sort lateness into one of two categories. So, what causes lateness? Things that are within your control and things that are not within your control. I think that many people don't understand there's a difference between these two categories. Yes, a lateness is a lateness, but the source of a lateness can vary. So, we're going to now take a look at these two items. What's, the causing factors what are the causing factors behind each? Well, let's first take a look at the things that aren't in your control. So the first item is traffic. This can include slow or heavy traffic on the streets and expressways, traffic jams, broken traffic lights, and things like that. Accidents. This includes any and all accidents that can happen to yourself or others near you. These could be accidents at work, while you're traveling, when you're at home, and so on. You could get gum stuck to your shoe, you could trip, fall, or get into any other accident. Next up is weather. This includes anything that Mother Nature can throw at us. It's not limited to things like floods, droughts, blizzards, high winds, tornadoes, hurricanes, things like that. Another item that's not within our control are emergencies. Now, I classify these things as life-threatening emergencies, such as natural disasters like earthquakes, forest fires, tsunamis, civil emergencies or disturbances like damage to bridges and tunnels and other infrastructure and things like that. And lastly, we have one final item that we're really not in control of, and that is, can you guess? Other people. Yep, that's right. As much as you try, you really can't control other people. You do not control other people's thoughts or actions. And as such, you really can't be responsible for how they act or carry themselves. So, let's quickly recap the items that are not within your control. We had traffic, so traffic accidents and things like that. Accidents, any little trips or falls or whatever accidents that might take place during the day or night. Weather, extreme weather like floods and those types of things. Emergencies, any type of emergency you can think of. And other people. So now I hope that, this list doesn't make you feel as if you're not in control of situations, but it's still a good reminder. Now, while the items that are listed here don't happen that often, you can rest assured that these things won't happen all the time. So that now brings us to which items that are in your control. So what are some items that are within your control? I'm just going to let you think for a moment about that. What can you control in your regular routine? Have a few ideas? Okay, let's move on. Well, one thing you can control is when you leave for an appointment. If you leave too soon and you get to your destination, a bit early, and if you leave too late, unfortunately, you'll arrive at your destination late. Now, the timing of this is very important, um, when it comes to what time you leave for any appointment throughout the day. Now, it's a strong factor, but it's by no means the only one. There are other things that you can control. Another item is judging travel time. Um, so, travel time can be tricky. Now, travel time is dependent on the time of day, the time of year, traffic, and the type of transportation option that you take. But in general, you can figure out when things are busy. And for example, things might be a little bit more busy at rush hour versus, a more quiet time of the day, maybe, 10 a.m. or 1 p.m. during the day. Another item is transportation. So you can decide how you're going to get from one place to another. That can be car, taxi, bus, train, plane, ferry, walking, biking, whatever. It's up to you. Another item that is within your control is how you deal with other people. Now, we talked about this earlier, but keep in mind this is different. Dealing with other people involves you, specifically how you handle a situation with someone and how you address their concerns, and a few other things like that. Next up is paying attention to the clock. Now, I know this sounds, a little simple or maybe even a little bit silly, but this is a really, really important thing when it comes to leaving on time. It can be easy to get distracted, and that's why it's so important to place emphasis on watching the clock and paying attention to what time it is. Um, so, what can you do? We have things that are not within your control, and there are things that are within your control. So, what's the best, course of action to take? Well, I like to tell people that it's important to strike a balance. Obviously, the things that you can't control are not within your control, but for the items that are within your control, you can put a bit more effort into doing everything that you can to ensure that you arrive on time to a destination. So, it's a fine line. Of course, there will be some times where, um, you might run into a giant traffic accident, or there's an emergency, or the weather's really bad. Things like that do happen. We don't live in a perfect world. But if you can take the time to take action on your end and to do everything that you possibly could, um, then you'll lessen that whole severity of the lateness. It really wasn't so much your fault. It was just something that happened. So um, yeah, so it's really good to strike a balance. Okay, so now we're going to move on to discussing the main topic of our webinar, and that is the problem with nearby appointments. Oh no. I'm just going to take a sip of water right now. Been doing a lot of talking. Okay, so now we've all had, nearby appointments, throughout our lives. It could be meeting a client around the corner at their office, or maybe meeting a friend for coffee at a restaurant down the street. So how and where do things go wrong? Let's put together a basic scenario. So let's say you've got an appointment in 15 minutes. That's just 5 minutes from your office. You tell yourself you have plenty of time to get the appointment. So you say to yourself, oh, we'll just finish one more task, or just finish reading this chapter. But before you know it, those 15 minutes have come and gone, and you're already 10 minutes late to your appointment. So really the question is, how did you arrive or manage to arrive late to an appointment that is merely 5 minutes away? Puzzling, huh? Well, The reason for this is a little something I like to call the closeness factor. So, why does this happen in the first place? Well, closeness breeds comfort. When you're physically near an appointment or meeting location, excuse me, you become more comfortable with the idea of traveling to your destination. After all, it's just a couple of minutes away, right? So, the problem here, though, is that you end up relaxing your guard so much that you have a skewed perception of time and end up running late. You tell yourself, oh, I have 5 minutes. It's just 5 minutes away to get to the cafe down the street. But you actually end up misjudging that time. So while feeling comfortable with time is a good thing, feeling too comfortable can seriously impact your ability to manage time. So now that we know this, what are some ways you can alleviate lateness? Well, let's go back to what we discussed earlier. So, what can you control when it comes to arriving on time to those nearby meetings and appointments? Well, there's actually several things you can do. We're now going to take a look at these things one by one. So, the easiest way to add a cushion or more time, or rather to help yourself arrive on time, is to add a cushion um, to your travel time. As I mentioned earlier, travel time takes place whether, the conditions are good or whether conditions are bad. You still need time to get from where you are to where you want to be. If you can't figure out, how much more time you'll actually need to get to a destination, it's always a good idea to play it safe and just add in a bit more travel time than you would have normally have said. So if you think, for example, that it will only take you 5 minutes travel time to get to a nearby destination, you might want to double that and say, okay, it'll probably take me 10 minutes. So, it's a good rule of thumb just to add on a few more minutes. You can either double it or add on 10 to 15 minutes just to play it safe. Another thing you can do is to do a little test. You could do a test drive, a test walk, a test run, to see how long it actually gets for you. It gets you, how long it takes you to get from your location to your destination. Now, you can think one thing, it'll take me 2 minutes to get around the corner, but it actually might take you a little bit longer. So there's actually a lot of things that you'll need to take care of. And, when everything's all said and done, that time might be a little bit longer. So the moral here is that a walkthrough never hurts. Another thing you can do is to add travel time to your calendar. Now, there's a difference between looking at your calendar and seeing an appointment and then reacting to it. Now, having an appointment in your calendar is helpful, but you also have to travel to where you need to be. So if you look at your calendar and you see that you have an appointment for 1 o'clock, and you focus down on your work, you get so much into it and you end up leaving at 1 o'clock, that's not really a good idea. So if that's the case, you might want to consider scheduling travel time into your calendar. You could add in, again, 10 to 15 minutes, maybe 20 minutes, just to make sure that you leave on time. Schedule stop work time. Okay, this can be a really helpful tool when it comes to preventing lateness. Now, you may be eager to do some work before you leave for your meeting or an appointment, but if you get so much bogged down in your work, you may actually forget to leave. Now, stop work time is just as it sounds. You simply stop what you're doing and start getting ready for your appointment. Now, if you haven't tried this yet, you might want to consider doing so, as it really will force you to stop what it is that you're doing at the moment and then switch gears to get ready. Another thing you can do is schedule out the door time. This is the time you literally have to be out the door and on your way to your appointment. This is where you actually go to the front door or down the stairs, cross the threshold, and get traveling to where you need to be. Another way to prevent lateness is to work on a simple task. So, as I mentioned earlier, if you want to do some work before leaving for an appointment, you can fall into the trap of getting too absorbed in that work. So one way of dealing with this is to work on a very simple task. So I don't know about you, but sometimes if I have a meeting or an appointment, or just if I'm working, I'm working on something and I get really focused on my work, and I can lose, a little bit of lose my sense of time. If I'm writing a blog post, for example, I can really get in it, but then, get so absorbed that I lose all sense of what time it is. So this tip here, the idea is that you should focus on your work, but the work shouldn't completely overrun your ability to focus on what time it is. So in order to combat this, I regularly suggest to people that they work on a brain off activity. So a brain off activity really is just a simple task. It's something that you can do pretty much, with your eyes closed, or, as we like to say, something that's easier for you to do. It doesn't require much brain energy or effort. So an example of this, it may vary, by person, but maybe you find filing, or, emptying your trash can, tidying up your desk, something that just doesn't require a lot of effort, can be thought of as a brain off task. So, try and think of simple cut and dry tasks that you could work on before appointments that would allow you to pay more attention to time itself, as opposed to getting really bogged down in your work. Now, another way to go about this is to set a timer as you work. So, before you sit down to do your work, you set a timer for, maybe 15 minutes, 20 minutes. Get to work, and then when the timer goes off, you stop what you're doing and you start to get ready. So another way to prevent lateness is to prepare for your meeting in advance. So I want to ask you a question. How much time does it take you to pack up your belongings, use the restroom, straighten the items on your desk, check in with colleagues, and grab your jacket or coat before heading out the door for a work appointment? Now, all those little bits of time can add up very, very quickly, and can go from anywhere from 5, 10, 15 minutes. If you find that it takes you a long time to pack up, you could actually prepare your belongings well in advance of your meeting. For example, before you sit down to do some work for a couple of hours, you could pack up your bag ahead of time so it's ready to go. So the only thing left to do is to finish what you're working on, grab your belongings, and then head out the door. Okay, so we've talked a lot about what it means to be late, what we can and can't control, and how we can better manage our time before leaving for nearby appointments. So how can we make an even better plan to arrive on time? Well, it involves a little formula. Now don't worry, there's no difficult calculations here. It's just subtraction and addition. I'm going to show you this little formula, and it works equally well for nearby and faraway appointments. But before we get there, I wanted to ask you, wouldn't it feel great to turn in a project days ahead of the due date? No last minute scrambling for you. How about enjoying that personal time you've been craving? Maybe catch up on a stack of magazines and enjoy a lazy afternoon at home. Or what about spending time building memories with loved ones? Time's always marching on, so when will you make time for your friends and family? If you haven't already heard of my e-workbook, The Order Expert's Guide to Time Management, I'm going to introduce it to you right here. The e-workbook is a hands-on 326-page PDF workbook that provides simple, practical solutions to common everyday time management problems. I wrote the book to help people learn basic time management skills. I was inspired to do so because most books about time management are, well, they're kind of general. They really don't tell you how to solve real-world time management problems. For example, have you ever wondered what you should do if you accidentally double book your schedule? Or what's the best way to overcome procrastination at work or at home? With the Order Expert's Guide to Time Management, you'll have a handy reference that will lead you through even the toughest of time management challenges. All you have to do is open the workbook, find the exercise that best suits your needs, follow the tips and instructions as written, and get on with your busy day. It's as easy as that. Not only will you learn how to solve specific time management problems with the book, but you'll also learn a lot about yourself in the process and how to better manage your schedule and time in future. So the workbook is divided into 6 convenient chapters, with each chapter covering a specific aspect of time management. As you work through the exercises in the workbook, you'll learn how to plan and prioritize projects and to-dos, arrive on time to meetings and appointments, hold a meeting that actually ends on time. Oh yes, please. Work productively at the office, overcome procrastination, gain more personal time, and feel good about your calendar no matter what's on or in it. Sounds good, right? So let's talk about the guide just a little bit more. So the e-workbook is available as an instant download. You can just purchase it and it's ready to go for you. You can read it anywhere on your desktop, laptop, tablet, or smartphone. And you can pay for it by PayPal or credit card. And this guide is available for only $24.99 US, and you can purchase it today at this website, gum.co/TM webinar. And again, it's there at the bottom of your screen. So if you've been really, wanting to manage your time, but, don't feel like slogging your way through a giant time management book, or just want some, easy solutions to your problems, or to actually learn more about yourself and how you manage your time, this is the workbook for you. Now, while the workbook is good, I do want to suggest to you something else, and that is time management coaching. Today, I'm offering limited time packages where you'll get my time management coaching and the ebook for a discounted price. So today, I'm offering, over 50% discount on my time management coaching packages. And these packages are coaching sessions that will take place, will be with you and me, and they'll be held via Skype or telephone. And today you can choose from 3 packages, a 1-hour coaching session, a 3-hour coaching session, or 3 hours of coaching, and 6 hours of coaching with me via Skype or telephone. And you'll also get a copy of the e-workbook in the process. So I'm making this offer only available to you today, since you were kind enough to join the webinar. So if you're interested in this, you can go ahead and visit that website at the bottom, gum.co/TM webinar. So if you have questions, about the ebook or the packages, I will be answering some questions later on the webinar, so stay tuned. You can go ahead and jot it down on a slip of paper on the side. But now I wanted to switch gears once again and get back to what we were talking about and that time management formula. So, the formula for arriving on time. Are you ready for it? Well, it's quite simple actually. Okay, here it is. the formula for arriving on time. So it's made up of, a few little parts. The first is arrival time, the time that you're going to arrive at your destination. And we're going to subtract that from a big chunk, which includes settle-in time, travel time, leaving time, prep time. And once you calculate all of that, it will tell you the time you need to get ready and leave your current destination. So we're now going to go through each of the items one by one. Okay, so arrival time. This is the time that you need to arrive at your destination. Now, it's a good idea to arrive at your destination a few minutes before your meeting is going to begin. But I like to say, arrival time is the time at which you're there, you've just arrived maybe at the cafe, and you're ready to go for your 3 o'clock meeting. So it's really a time at which you're ready to hit the ground running and get going and get ready for your meeting. The next part of the formula is the settle-in time. Now, I always like to remind people that there's more that you need to do when it comes to arriving on time for a meeting. Here's a little example for you. Now, in the case of arriving at, let's say, a client or a vendor's office building for a meeting, you might have to, for example, park your car, find the right building and room, check in at the front desk, get a security pass, find your way upstairs, exchange pleasantries, use the restroom, find the conference room, unpack your belongings in the room, and so on. That's a lot of stuff, isn't it? Okay, the next part of the formula is travel time. So this is the time it takes for you to travel to your destination. Now, it's a good idea to have this travel time in your back pocket. You could always look it up online, from your current position to your destination using Google Maps or any other trip planner. The next part is leave time. This is the time you must leave for your appointment. So it's really just as simple as that. It's the time that you actually have to leave your home, your office, school, place of work, whatever. And preparation time. This is the time that it will take for you to pack up your bags, belongings, eat a meal, do whatever it is that you have to do before you leave for the appointment. Okay, and then it's time to calculate everything together. Now, that formula, might have seemed a little bit overwhelming, but it really isn't that difficult. I'm going to walk you through an example right now so you can see the formula in action. Okay, well, meet Susie. She wants to arrive to a nearby meeting on time. So here's what she's going to do. Her meeting is at 3 p.m. So the first thing that she's going to do is figure out her arrival time. She's going to want to arrive at 2:55 p.m. just to be safe. So that's 5 minutes before her meeting begins. She'll also think about settling in before her appointment. Susie likes to be comfortable. She likes to grab a coffee from the coffee shop downstairs and just take a few minutes to get mentally ready for her meeting. So we'll give her 5 minutes. Next, Susie's going to calculate her travel time. She'll be walking to her appointment, so she'll check the travel time online in advance just to get an idea of how long it'll actually take. She could also walk it by foot, a day or two before her meeting. So she finds out that her trip will take about 5 minutes. Now, leaving time, this is the time that Susie has to leave her office in order to get going. So for this, we're just going to give her 1 minute extra. Lastly, Susie has to get everything ready at her office so she can be prepared for her meeting. This is where she'll pack up her papers, laptop bag, coat, and lock up her office. So we'll give her about 5 minutes for this. So we've just arrived at the point where Susie has to calculate everything. She'll take all of the items that we discussed and calculate them using the little formula that we have. So here's the formula once again. The arrival time minus the settle in, travel, leave, and prep time added all together. And that will give you the time that you need to get ready. So in Susie's case, if we plug in everything, we'll see it there below. We'll have 2:55 p.m. for her arrival time. We'll estimate 5 minutes for her settle-in, 5 minutes for travel, 1 minute or so for leaving, 5 minutes for prep. And if we calculate that all together, that'll give us the time that Susie needs to get ready. So if we do that, Susie will need to get ready around about 2:39 p.m. for a 3 o'clock meeting. Now, of course, Susie could track on a few extra minutes to play it safe, but 2:39 p.m. is the latest she needs to start the process if she wants to arrive on time and be comfortable in her travels. Now, this was just an example, but I think you'll see how easy it is to add up the minutes for each section so you can get a better idea of when you should leave for a nearby appointment. It's really not that difficult, to do the calculations. You just need to, be aware and cognizant that getting to your nearby meeting still requires the same planning and preparation that you'd need to make for a meeting that's even further away. The thing that differs, obviously, is the travel time, but you still also need to take those steps of preparing yourself mentally, getting your belongings ready, leaving the building in which you're currently sitting or standing, and all of that. So it really isn't that difficult. It just requires a little bit of thought. So now I have a question for you. Now that we've gone through all the things that cause lateness, how can you make changes to your routine to make sure you arrive on time? This can be for nearby meetings, and it can also be for meetings that are a little bit farther away. Could you leave your office a little earlier? Could you pack up your belongings well in advance? Maybe you could select a go-to task to work on before leaving for an appointment. It's worth giving this some thought. Now, by planning ahead, you'll most certainly save time in future. Now, I want you to think about a recent lateness or a late arrival, could have taken place yesterday or last week or a few weeks ago. You had to go to an appointment or a meeting and you ended up being late. So do you have that scenario in your head? Okay. What could you do differently next time? Or let's say if you could go back in time, what would you do to prevent that situation from happening? Again, could you prepare your things well in advance before you have to leave? Could you tell a coworker that you don't have time to talk about something at the moment? You'd be happy to schedule something for later in the day, but you have to leave now for your appointment. There's a whole bunch of things that you can consider. So, try giving this some thought. It's a good exercise. Again, how can you make changes to your daily routine to make sure you arrive on time? Now, I know some of you may be thinking, okay, well, that's fine and all. I can plan, but things happen. What if something else makes me late? What if I, get ready for my appointment or my meeting and I get held up by traffic, a coworker? What do I do? Well, as I mentioned earlier, there will always be things outside of your control. We don't live in a perfect world. But there is something that you can do. And the thing that you can do, and you should always keep this in mind, is that you can focus on what you can control. This will really determine what makes or breaks you when it comes to staying on schedule and on time. You don't have to get caught up in all those other items. Now, while you can't control those other factors, like the weather, traffic, or accidents, you can control yourself, your thoughts, and your actions. Now, these are the items that you'll need to focus on to manage your time and schedule well, even when it comes to those pesky nearby appointments. So as I've mentioned before, maybe you could stop your work earlier, work on a, simple task like filing, um, you know, project documents that are finished, give yourself more travel time, perhaps even find a shorter travel route. It's all within your control. So at this time, we're getting ready to wrap things up. But I just wanted to review again the details of my time management e-workbook. So if you're interested in this, I highly recommend it. It is something that can help you not only solve your time management problems, but help you learn more about yourself in the process so that you can actually find out, you know what, this is something that I always do before I leave for appointments, and it's really messing with my schedule. Maybe I should make changes. Or, I'm going about this, all wrong. There are things that are within my control. How can I make changes? So again, the e-workbook is available as a PDF, as an instant download. Once you buy it, you can download it immediately. You can read it anywhere on your desktop, laptop, tablet, or smartphone. You can be mobile with it, and you can pay for it by PayPal or credit card. And it's available for just $24.99 /TM webinar. So I'll just leave that slide up for just a couple more seconds. And I wanted to remind you once again about my time management coaching packages. And again, these are reduced today only for you guys because you joined the webinar. So you can get a coaching session of your choice, the 1 hour, 3 hour, or 6 hour. That will happen via Skype or telephone. And you'll also receive one downloadable copy of the workbook. And again, the website for that is down below. It's gum.co/TM webinar. And, you might be thinking about the workbook or thinking about the coaching and you're not quite sure, you really haven't made a decision. Well, I have some good news for you. If you'd like to give the workbook a little test, you can get a free sample on my website, theorderexpert.com. You can go directly to theorderexpert.com /time-management-guide. And once you go to that page, you can scroll down and you'll see a little box where you can enter in your email address. So you enter that in and you'll get a free sample of the workbook delivered to you so you can download it. You could also go directly to my website, the homepage, theorderexpert.com, and scroll down on the homepage and you'll find a blue box that says balance your schedule. And if you click that box, it will also take you to this page where you can download a free sample of the workbook. So what you'll get is the first two sections of the workbook, so you can test it out, give it a try, see what it's like. And if you like it, again, you can always purchase the guide at a later date. Okay, so I'm just going to leave that up there. And if you wanted the website for the coaching or the book itself, let me just go back here. Again, it's at the bottom of your screen. Website is gum.co/TM webinar. I'll leave this up for just a few more moments. And I will also go to the other page if you want to grab your free sample of the e-workbook. Okay, and now I'm going to open it up to questions. So if you have a question, this can be, about the e-workbook or my coaching. You can go ahead and ask a question using the little question and answer icon on your screen. So does anybody have any questions for me? I'll be hanging around just a few minutes longer. So, if you have a question, feel free to answer it, or rather ask it, on the right-hand side of your screen. Now, the thing, as I mentioned before about the time management guide, it's really something that will help you better manage your time. In a sense, you'll be teaching yourself. I wrote the book and wrote it in such a way where you can dive in at any particular point in time. It covers, the book itself covers 6 different chapters, and they include scheduling skills. One chapter is managing meetings, appointments like a pro. The next chapter is planning and prioritizing projects, tasks, and to-dos. And the next one is conquering latenesses and procrastination. And the last chapter is a special one, and that's perfecting a relationship with time. So, I like to say, to people, you can work your way straight through the workbook if you like. You don't have to, but you can choose also, which problem, time management problem, gives you the most pain or the most, um, you know, problems throughout your day, and then work on that specific issue. So, it's really up to you. So I'll be hanging around just for a few minutes longer. So again, if you have a question, go ahead and enter it on the right-hand side of your screen. Someone's asked if you can use the ebook over and over again. And that's a really good question. You can actually. It's not just a one-time use and then that's it. Um, the workbook, as I mentioned earlier, is meant for you to use over and over again. I like to tell people that time management is an ongoing process. It's something that you work on, now and in future, and you always get better and better at it. And the thing with the workbook is that you can do an exercise in it, let's say today, and improve your ability to, perhaps not double book a schedule or things like that. So you could do that exercise today, but then you could also do it in a few months' time, or even just a few weeks' time to see how you're doing, for a quick tune-up. So the book can be used, over and over again. There's, similar circumstances that happen, in our lives, whether it's managing appointments or planning a project properly. You can use it over and over again to help you. So it's really something that, um, has great benefit to you. So, you'll be referring to it again and again. So let's see. Are there any other questions? We'll be wrapping up shortly. So if you have a question, go ahead and enter it in on the side there. Okay. Well, it looks like that's all the questions that we have. So I'm going to wrap up the webinar. And I'd like to thank you so much for joining me today for this webinar. I hope it's helped you, figure out how you can control the time that you have and to take those steps to ensure that you actually leave and prepare for those nearby appointments just as much as for any other appointments that are, farther away, be they 2 miles away, 5 miles away, 3 hours away. I hope it's given you some, helpful perspective. So if you have any questions, about the webinar or about the e-workbook or my coaching, you can email me directly at info@theorderexpert.com. Again, that's info@theorderexpert.com. And you can also visit my website, and there's a contact page there. You can click that and send me an email that way. Okay, so thanks again for joining me today. I hope you found the webinar to be useful. Feel free to send me an email if you have any questions. And if you haven't already done so, you can visit my website, theorderexpert.com, to sign up for time management, productivity, and organizing tips delivered straight to your inbox. And when you do, you'll receive one of my gifts, which is a free desk organizing ebook that's absolutely free. So you might want to do that if you need some help, getting a better grip on your time or your schedule, or keeping your home or office in order. So again, you'll see that at my page, theorderexpert.com. You'll see on the homepage there a little box for you to enter in your email, and you'll sign up and get your free ebook, okay? Great. Well, thanks again for joining me. And remember, you can control whether or not you arrive on time to those nearby appointments. The choice is yours. Thanks, and have a good day.